Welcome to the Catching Out podcast. I forgot the name of the title of the podcast then for a second.
Slancha!
Welcome to a podcast. These are non-alcoholic beverages. We're just to point out.
Unless Guinness want to sponsor us, and then it could be 100% alcoholic if they want it to be.
100%. That's a lot of alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, you're more likely to want, I don't know, someone like Brooker to sponsor you for that or something, like pure ethanol.
It's even worse. Sorry, I completely walked into it.
You did.
How are you on it this much tonight?
I recharged my batteries during the men's podcast where I zoned out for 30 full minutes.
Only 30?
I don't know. I need someone to time it. There's a point where I start just looking at the Excel spreadsheet on my second monitor and I zone back in about 20 minutes later and I genuinely wasn't even moving anything on the Excel spreadsheet. I was just looking at it.
You heard me bullying Nick, and then you're like, oh, I can actually pay attention again.
that is very much.
Oh no, you can tell the moment where you realize, oh, this is actually interesting. Usually what Nick does whenever we're talking about men's Super League.
Who do I pick on?
Who did you
No
pick
one.
on today?
Anyone was fine.
Just
Anyway.
everybody, yeah.
Let's go straight into it.
Moving swiftly on from bullying Nick.
We've got like how many episodes? 25 episodes of that by now. So let's keep going.
And people still want more.
They do. Women's Super League. I don't even know where to start on this. I saw one match.
Which one?
Storm versus White Tigers.
That's a good one to start off with.
Yeah, Storm were better.
We do a men's Super League. Nick just give a one-word answer to a match. Jesus.
It was a bit of a. It was just a rough one for White Tigers. They weren't able to dodge out the way of Storm's pretty aggressive up court throwing. Like Storm very much dominated the court territory and got away with it. Unfortunately, Kat wasn't making many catches and therefore getting out a lot of the foot. She was very much the target for the first person they were trying to get out the whole time, and very rarely did that not pay off for Storm, and that was the match.
I don't blame you, Kat. Nick might blame you, but I don't.
I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying that's what happened. And actually, I'm very much appreciative because she came over to me just before the game started. Literally, players lineup had been called, and she runs over and said, "Oh, by the way, here's a semi-justifiable reason as to why White Tigers are no longer the White Tigers but the Grey Tigers. That's because the shirts don't wash well."
That conversation, yeah.
White does not wash well, and you know what? That's a valid reason.
After that comment, I've only just copped on to who you're talking about.
Who I'm talking? Bloody hell! All right. Wow. Yeah. Okay. You can you can totally pick that up with him at league. Just absolutely rinse him for that. Please do. We all support you. It's totally fine.
Literally, there's about an hour's worth of shit in the last episode that you can start off with before you get to that point.
But yeah, no, actually, fair enough. If that is the reason that they changed kit, that's valid. I think that's a fair reason. Wait till Saints then become, I don't know, yellow as a result instead of white. I don't know. That when they realise the same thing.
They end up looking like Barney Grumble from The Simpsons.
I don't know why. I was thinking Saints, the halo would be yellow, and then I realised they play in white and red, so probably be red would be their colour. But anyway, talking about kits with Women's Super League.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Women's Super League. Moving on from the Vatican's flag. I think a lot of these results are pretty much what not necessarily the numbers themselves results wise, but the winners, etc., are kind of what we would have expected. There's nothing super surprising from my point of view in this one, other than Rangers obviously didn't send their best squad this time round. So I think Rangers took a bit of a beating compared to what we've seen from them for the rest of the season. And that purely seems to come down to their squad really wasn't the same squad as they always have. It wasn't actually as different as you'd want it to be considering those scorelines. You'd want it to have been a much different squad to be beaten 20-2 by Storm 2. That's that's quite hefty for
What
them.
do you mean?
was-
Storm
that
2
was
are
sad.
incredible. I've always backed Storm 2.
Storm 2 are incredible, but 22 is quite a hefty scoreline. And it kind of like, I was reffing that match, and it just felt like there were so many moments when Rangers just went chaotic and did things that they really just didn't need to do. There were running counters that were just not working, and after a running counter doesn't work for the first 3 times, you don't keep going with it. You kind of should stop at that point. There was one frame in that where Casey Howard managed to turn around a 5v1 single-handedly. She got a catch, so there's an argument to be made like, oh, it's not single-handedly, except no, it was, because Carmen immediately got hit right out afterwards. I love her, but bless her, she did go out straight afterwards. So it was just Katie turning a 1v5 down to a 1v1, which is pretty damn good. And like that's obviously Katie Howard's an amazing player, but part of that comes down to like you can't be giving her the opportunity. You can't be letting a player like her get that many hits that quickly. Like it just she shouldn't be able to turn that around at this level, especially when you're a team that's that much higher than her than Storm 2 in the table. So that comes down to a mixture of Rangers underperforming, Storm. I wouldn't even say overperforming. I think they just performed, at the standard that they've come to perform recently. It was a solid Storm 2 game. But Rangers, underperformed quite a bit throughout the day. So, which is tricky to see, but as we'll see in the table, it probably doesn't matter for them. They set themselves really well in the first half of the season, and now they can kind of rest a little bit on their laurels. Mathematically, they're still a little bit of danger there, but they're pretty safe.
All I've taken from that is Katie Howard is the best player in Women's Super League.
I love Katie Howard. Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
I think we all do. Absolute tank on court can just demolish a team like that. Very impressive. Very, very impressive.
Just gonna get the thumbs out next time. I can already see her like just.
I turned up to a match to like photograph for some of these background pictures, and like literally she had play ball called on her, and she just turned, posed at me, and then carried on with the rest of the set. It's like, when you've got that much swag and you're that good, totally fair.
To be fair, literally for this photo, you could just see her kind of doing the power pose in the background. Well, it looks like Meg's trying to hold in a laugh.
I do think.
Okay, I'm gonna go on mute.
In honor of Katie Howard, I think Storm 2 should just release a sleeveless shirt version just for her, like one of those muscle tees of their kit. Because I don't think anyone else in the club would wear it, but it will be worth it just for Katie Howard.
Definitely, 100%.
Could just take scissors to the kit, to be fair.
Yeah, I back it.
Just gonna see one of us just cut up with scissors to Katie and her not having any context. Okay.
But
yes.
in terms of other fixtures, probably one of the most predictable outcomes for fixtures was Derby drawing to a top 5 team.
But they haven't done that much this season, have they? That was last
Nothing
season.
compared to last season.
Not compared to last season, but they've still got joint most draws in a match and in the season, which is also Storm have also got that many draws as well. So 3 draws for them this season.
Yeah.
It's the second season in a row where they're top level on points on set difference by 1 set difference, but have not won more matches than the team below them. So wait till that comes to haunt them again after Sunday, because that'll be his 2nd year in a row. Don't draw matches, Derby. They are improving though. It's less than last year. Unless they draw 3 matches this weekend, they will not beat last year. I think last year was 5 draws. You kind of want to see
it now, don't you? Though.
Yeah, well, of course I do, but. It's so great. It's impressive. It's genuinely an impressive skill to draw that many matches. Only Ronda have equaled it, to be fair.
Only you could have like these stats off the top of your head.
We literally just talked about Men's League 1 and Ronda having 5
Do you think
draws.
I remember anything outside of my own results? You're kidding yourself, mate. I couldn't even tell you half the shit we just talked about for the past hour and so.
Spartans 2s have the same number of draws. Actually, a lot of Super
in the league below. Sorry, in the league
yeah,
below.
sorry. Spartans 2's women's have the same number of draws, and then a lot of men's Super Leagues are actually.
Men's Super League is full of draws.
But no, Ronda's massively outclassing Derby as far as draws at the moment.
I know.
Insane, 5 draws.
So basically, Nick is full of bullshit.
Yep.
It's my name.
Apologize.
Can we get that on the back of your shirt?
Bull by name.
We'll chip in for it.
Bull by name, bull by nature. Anyway,
we want bullshit.
Moving on from Derby's apparently unparalleled ability to draw 3 times, like everyone in Men's Super League.
I think predictably that's.
God's always turned into Nick now.
No, it's overdue that Derby got another draw added to their tally. I think it would be fun to see them get another one next meet. I think that's what we do.
Well, hold up, at least one. Come on.
That's what the people deserve.
Yes.
That's what the people need.
Yep.
Injected in my veins.
In terms of the other games, there's really not much to call out. Like, Bedford My Eagles had a very solid day. We knew that they needed that going into this weekend because of, I think, availability issues this weekend. Thanks to, also we talked about availability on the last podcast. I think it affects these sets of fixtures more, from what I understand. But the reason why availability is so poor this weekend is because this weekend wasn't meant to happen in the first place. So if you haven't been listening to the previous podcast or don't really know what's going on in British dodgeball leagues, this is a rescheduled fixture. So this match was meant to happen, I think, in May, like beginning of May or end of April, beginning of April. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it was meant to be round 4. Oh, it was meant to be during NECs, wasn't it? Which was second week in April.
Yes, that's correct.
And it got rescheduled to this weekend. So I think a lot of people had already made their plans for the summer when dodgeball had been, relieved off the schedule. It's a bank holiday weekend as well, so everyone will be booking things. And British dodgeball like, well, it's the next time we can schedule it, which is fair.
Bit rough, but fair.
Yeah.
Fixtures wise, the only other thing I just wanted to shout out as well within that I think does have to be mentioned, and it's not just because I'm biased, because it's my match. The 10-10 scoreline between Bees and Storm 2 is a really that's one of those matches where going into the meet I was like, it's critical that we win this. I'm sure Storm 2 went into it being like, it's critical that we win this, and we've come out of it and we're like, you know what? Actually fine for both of us that we drew it, and if anything that makes things a lot worse for Wessex, because now Wessex aren't ahead of us 2 teams. If one of us had won it, then that would mean that the other team was pretty dangerously positioned for relegation. The fact that we drew it means both of us are still within reach of Wessex. So that's actually the worst possible outcome for Wessex, and a kind of, fine result for Bees and Storm. Like, we shook hands at the end of it, and everyone seemed pretty chipper, which is not what you'd expect for a draw against your closest rivals in the penultimate league meet. You'd expect it to be like really high emotion, especially for such a close game. And yet it was just, no, it's a lot of, everyone was all smiles. It was like, this is nice. And all the, in the chats afterwards, at least on the B side, there wasn't any like anger at the fact that we had lost this game that was so close to being within our reach. It was like, no, that reflected the game that we played. That was as good as we could have hoped, and was so much better than we did the first time we played them. So, I think both teams are at least happy that they're not already mathematically doomed, which is quite nice. Not even mathematically, probability-wise doomed.
Yeah, it's weird looking at the fixtures because either it was a draw or it was a very one-sided result. There's no 12-10s or 13-11s type scores. They're all.
That Storm Sheriff's game was very tight, I thought.
To be fair, yeah, 22-2, very close.
There's only one digit in it.
Yeah, as soon as you said 10-10, sorry, I don't know why, but my head just went, oh, it's a shame that we can't have a result that's 9-9, and then we could just do 9-9.
9-9.
Oh, that would be so good. Oh, that's such a me thought. I don't know how you came up with that. Fair play, mate.
For your Brooklyn Nine-Nine fans out there, it's a shame. We may petition BD to shorten matches so that you can only play one less set, just so we can get 9-9 scorelines.
Oh, the other thing I want to call out is how bad of a match to catch we picked out.
Oh, that is wild. Like, I genuinely thought that was going to be a close game. Wessex v Sheriffs. I genuinely thought that could be a close game because Wessex have been on such a poor run of form leading into this that I thought, you know what, like, Sheriffs have had a tough season, but if they can just gather themselves for one game, this would be the game to, like, do it. Nope. Just did not happen. And it was a 12-set match as well, which means that the sets weren't exactly slow. So yeah, that's really... if you're in Sheriffs, that would be really upsetting, to be honest.
So bad.
Rub it into the wound.
Meanwhile, Con just laughing at them like, imagine being that bad.
I'm more laughing at how bad of a, like, how did we not think about going for Storm Derby or B Storm 2?
That's what you say that Wessex have been on a poor form recently, had they?
I think they had. They'd lost the last 3, right?
They beat Sheriffs.
They beat Sheriffs last meet.
They can't have beat Sheriffs last week because they played Sheriffs last week.
No. Yeah, but they must have beat them the first time.
Yeah, but that was 9 matches ago.
Sorry, let me just look at that. So they lost against...
What?
They didn't get absolutely battered by Phantoms, and they lost against Rangers, but Rangers have been, like, until this meet, Rangers were actually a solid midfield team. I wouldn't have expected Wessex to win that.
And then what was that other fixture that
round? To be fair, they did have, like, a complete meltdown against U's last meet. So,
oh yeah, they absolutely bottled it, but I think that was more like that was a mixture of different circumstances. I wouldn't hold that one result against the whole of Wessex.
I was more...
Their other match was against Phantoms, where they got 17-5, which is actually very respectable against Phantoms.
Yeah, I was more looking from, in terms of 3 matches, they'd lost 3 on the bounce, and they weren't exactly that impressive score. Like you got a similar result to Derby, I think, or something, didn't you? Or was it Beagles? I feel like you lost 1-16-16.
Yeah, we did well against Derby, but
that's what I'm saying is, like, if Sheriffs are kind of down there with Bees and Storm 2, then and Wessex had that bad of a performance against those matches, which are equivalent to those type of teams, then Sheriffs v Wessex should be a fair game.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough.
And I thought it would definitely...
I would say that it's not necessarily because Wessex had poor form recently. I think it's just that they're in that lower section. I think they had excellent form at the start of the season rather than poor form now. I think now is what I tend to think of as Wessex's normal playing ability. I was genuinely really surprised by how they played in the first couple of meets of the season in a really positive way.
Definitely.
But that wasn't what I expected of them going into the season. They weren't getting the scorelines that I thought they were going to get. Now they are. So I don't know that you could say that that's poor form, but it's poor form compared to them at the start of the season. Is it poor form compared to their usual ability? How they're actually individually able? I don't know.
But it was also a fixture that would have a bearing on the table
it's
in terms of where people land. Bringing it up.
Rest in peace, Sheriffs.
Minus 138 set difference. That's rough. That's really rough.
Has anyone checked in on Emily Busby recently?
No. Wow.
No.
Just calling her out. She might be having the worst time ever right now, and Zoe's just like, let's just mention it on the podcast, just so she's like, aware that everyone else is aware that it's a really shit time to be a Sheriff's player. Wow, Zoe.
This was Queen's this time last year, so Zoe's trying to enjoy it as much as possible.
She didn't fucking play for Queen's last year either.
Oh, fuck yeah, true.
So he's just like
the bottle jobs known as Leeds, right?
Wow.
We'll get on to how they're doing in a second.
You know what? Actually, we will.
Save it.
We will.
Literally save it.
You're like dragging me on a tangent. You know, like that. Anyway, bottom of the table, Sheriffs, 4 points.
God, don't rub the salt in the wound, Nick.
Hey, our audio listeners need to know what the hell's going on. They can't see this. Storm 2 in ninth, 7 points, 3 wins, 1 draw. Bees just ahead, 8 points, 3 wins, 2 draws. Wessex on 9 points, 4 wins and 1 draw. And then 6th place, Rangers, 11 points, 5 wins, 1 draws. That's pretty much the relegation fight. It's literally the entire bottom half of the table. And then the top half of the table, I mean, first to third is pretty much, no, it is set. With Derby Phantoms on 27 with 12 wins and 3 draws. Bedford Mighty Eagles on 13 wins, 1 draw on 27 points as well. There is literally one set in it. I don't know why the set difference says it's 84 and then 156. I'll fix that in post. But I'm pretty sure it's 158 sets to Derby. No. Set difference.
Yeah.
Set difference is 158 and 156.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
Spartans are a point behind on 124, and then battling out for that 4th place is Storm and White Tigers on 17 points and 14 points, and Storm have 7 wins and 3 draws. Wild that only the top 4 have a positive set difference.
Yeah, I mean, that tells you a lot, doesn't it?
That really tells you a lot. There should definitely be 3 leagues next year. Okay. It's just that's rough. That is really rough.
Yeah.
An absolute gulf between the top 4 teams and the rest, really. Even the top 3 teams, like 124, and then the next is 10.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's tricky. But yeah, interesting table as far as, so like we said, Sheriff's kind of mathematically within reach, but with their form recently and their matches, they've got Beagles, Storm 2, and Spartans. So if they need to get at least 2 wins out of that, that means Sheriff's beating Spartans or Beagles in the last week, which would be interesting if that
The
match
absolute
happens.
scenes if that
Oh,
happens.
could you imagine?
Emily
it'd be even
Busby
bigger-
masterclass.
It'd be even bigger than whenever Queen's got the draw against Derby.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
The court
Imagine Sheriffs
invasion.
came away with 3 wins. It'd be fucking immense.
You'll have line refs just holding back the nets as people just flood over celebrating the Sheriffs. Like, yeah.
And Queens and Storm 2 crying.
Yeah, exactly.
As the Emily Busby fan club lifts her up in a blaze of glory. Zoe not sure whether to drop her in anger or cheer in happiness. I need to stop talking, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's probably best to go on to the fixtures to try and explain what might happen.
What the fuck's going on?
But basically, yeah, Sheriffs stuck where they are, pretty much, guaranteed. So that means that there's only really one relegation spot still on the table. Arguably, Bedford Rangers are still within range of it because they're only 4 points ahead of Storm 2. But considering, like we said, like it's not like some of the other leagues that we've looked at, then there is a chance of like 7th place getting points or getting a win against 2nd or 3rd. Here, we haven't seen anything close to that happening. So bar something absolutely insane happening multiple times for Wessex, Queen Bees, and Storm 2, I would say Rangers are safe. They're not mathematically, but they are probability-wise. So that really just puts Wessex, Queen Bees, and Storm 2 in a relegation battle, and there's 2 points separating them because Wessex are at 9, Queen Bees are at 8, Storm 2 are at 7, and Wessex and Storm 2 have to play each other.
Yeah,
so
that's huge
that's
match.
interesting because that immediately reduces the total number of points on the board for that collective group, right? There's no way that both teams can get 6 points. So that's really interesting. And then the other match.
Interesting thing is the fact that Queen Bees and Storm drew last time they played.
That's the thing. Like Queen Bees have a really interesting set of matches because we've got Storm 1, we've got Derby Phantoms, and then we've got Bedford Rangers. Obviously, the match to win there is Bedford Rangers. If we have to win one match, that's the one that we're aiming to win. But Storm, we have a very good history of drawing or beating them across multiple seasons. So that's not a foregone conclusion, and both teams are aware of
No.
that going into that match. That's like, for some reason, Queen Bees tactically managed to line up in a way that really annoys Storm. Like it's just one of those ones where, despite the fact there's a golf inability, I would say, or not ability, not golf, but there's a difference. Storm are generally a better team than Queens across the league. For some reason, you match
Well,
them up.
one team is guaranteed safety, and the other one is not
Yep.
for a reason.
One
And
has
this
positive.
happens,
One has a
happens
positive
every
set
year.
defense. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, despite
The
the fact
other
that
is
Storm,
Queens.
yeah, despite the fact that Storm should be the obvious winners in that match, historically not actually necessarily the case.
No,
And
I'd
then
agree
like
with that. Yeah.
Derby, obviously it would be insane if Queens managed to beat Derby, but dare I point out, the first half of the Queen Bees match against Derby Phantoms last time was really good and went in favour of Queens. Obviously, Phantoms then fixed that crap and immediately bounced back. But the reason that happened last meet was because Phantoms, for this meet, have awful other matches. So it's their middle match where they've got Beagles and it's Beagles and Spartans, right? They've got that day. Spartans beforehand and Beagles at the end. So realistically, if you're a coach or even a player as a Phantom, you're looking at that, you're going, we've got Spartans, then Queens, then Beagles. What match am I going to focus on the least? What match am I going to rest my best players for? And then what happened last time was that Bees are actually decent if you put a sort of development-y squad in front of them. So we'll see what happens there. They might have learnt their lesson from last time.
It's also an interesting one because originally my point was going to be that if Derby lose to Spartans, they'll go in a bit potentially a bit deflated into that game. But I was actually thinking if they lose the Spartans, they'd be even more riled up to go into that.
Yeah,
like
we need them to be
being being realistic. You probably do want them to beat Spartans, and as you said, kind of potentially rest some of their stronger players for the big game against Beagles.
I mean, it's Derby versus Spartans. It's got draw written all over it.
Derby gets anybody is draw written all over it.
Three draws for Derby.
This is literally the fixture that last time that Zoe said, I refuse to say anything, I will predict a draw, and she got it right. It's safer, like,
shut up.
Not even unironically, it is safer to call a draw in that match than it is. And like, the other thing that hasn't been mentioned is, let's not forget how Bees did last year against Derby, getting that draw out of the bag. Like, I don't think it's impossible for that to be a draw either. I think Bees, it could either be a totally shit day, or it could actually be one hell of a high to end the season on.
Realistically, the one thing that we need to do as a Bees team is win that Rangers match. If we get that,
100%.
then we're not 100% safe. It relies on other results, but that's the big focus for that Bees team is get that. Because then, like we said, we've got, if you're talking about competition at the bottom table, Storm 2 have to play White Tigers, which, given form recently for those two teams, could go either way. I wouldn't want to predict that one in either direction. But then Storm 2 get to play Sheriffs, and I would be very happy predicting a Storm 2 win there. And then that just leaves them with their little matchup against Wessex at the end, which could decide who gets relegated. And then Wessex have a horrible match against Storm, which I'd imagine they'll lose.
They have Storm
and a match against
White Tigers.
Which, like I've just said, it depends on which White Tigers team shows up. We've said it all across the season. White Tigers are really hard to predict. They could show up and be absolutely insanely good, or they could just kind of meander a bit on court. They can be a bit, I don't know.
Yeah, are you going to get the White Tigers or the Grey Tigers?
Yeah, yeah. Genuinely. Yeah.
Oh, I hate myself.
Gonna be an interesting one. Gonna be an interesting one.
And then at the table, what are the matches?
I mean, at the top of the table, you've got Derby v Spartans, Bedford Mighty Eagles v Derby, which is, Derby are playing second and third. They need to win one or two of those games. They need to win everything, really, like to secure that. But to maintain not third place, I think they need to win at least one of those. It'd be hilarious if they walk away with two draws, because I don't actually know what will happen then. Bedford Eagles have Sheriffs and White Tigers. You'd expect them to get 2 wins out of them, but I know availability will be an issue for them. Because I believe Abby Gower won't be there. And then a few others. And then Spartans as well. They've got Derby, Rangers, and Sheriffs. I mean, yeah, Derby have the hardest fixtures to come away with a win here.
So they're top of the table, but they've got a lot more work to do to stay that place. But then it will mostly come down to who wins the matches. That, you know, if Spartans or Beagles manage to pull not an upset, but within the table, the concept of an upset against Phantoms, that's when things start to get very interesting as far as permutations.
Who do you think will crown themselves in 4th? Who will be the best of the rest? Storm or White Tigers? Yeah. That mid-table battle.
Obviously.
Well, no, okay, there's 3 points in it, right? So it's a win and a draw. Storm have Bees, Wessex,
Draw.
And
Bit win.
Yeah.
And Rangers.
Big win.
And then White Tigers.
There you go. They've won it. They just get 2 wins. They've won it. So.
All right. Okay. Moving on. Derby v Storm. Let's go.
Ask silly.
He's fucked it. Derby versus who?
Spartans.
Fucking idiot. He said it with full, with all of his chest too. He went with Storm.
Shut up. Give me a damn prediction already.
I know this is Nick's favorite club, so I'm going to go with Spartans.
I'm going to go Phantoms.
Oh, I thought you'd go with the draw, you know.
Can't.
I actually don't think it will be a draw this time. I think it will be a 1-set win from Phantoms.
Go on, you can get a bonus point if it's by 1 set.
Come on, Phantoms, please.
Just making up rules to let Zoe try and catch up.
You know what? Even though she's been in less, I'm almost certain that she's probably winning. Let's be real. Like,
I've actually done all right, I think.
I've missed too many.
I need to. Well, no, because you've participated in the online one. There was only one round that we didn't do the online stuff for, so, you know. But yeah,
I thought I'd done all right.
Do you want to hear my incredibly bad logic as to why I think Phantoms will win?
Go on, treat us with it.
Incredibly bad, but it is pretty bad.
Is it match fixing?
No. I think Vienna calling sounded like it was an absolutely knackering competition, and I think that will have genuinely taken some out of those girls. It's great that they won it, but I don't know, there's some element there that I can't imagine the week before the final national meet when you were that close to the table sending so many of your top players over. They didn't send their full first team, obviously, but it was a fair chunk of them.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Whereas Derby haven't done that. And I think, I don't know, I can just see that somehow impacting things just as far as mentality goes. If Spartans had lost it, then I would definitely say that would affect things mentality-wise. But I don't know, there's something in there that it sits a bit weird with me, and it's kind of out of character for Spartans to do that. And I think that doing those kinds of out-of-character things won't help. I don't know what the team cohesion is going to be like. I don't know what the team fitness level is going to be like, that kind of thing. I can just see that being just enough of a difference.
Playing a part, yeah.
You need something
the logic.
These two teams, right? And if last time I was so confident that they were the same ability, I would normally go in with the same confidence here. I'm having to find something to split them, and that's enough to split them for me.
Yeah, I can see the logic. I can see the logic for sure.
Yeah, I just think Derby will. I've been pretty impressed with Derby's performance this year in most matches. I don't think they've been as fallible to themselves essentially this year as they were last year, and I think Spartans maybe have. I think with all the injuries in the men's team and stuff, I think as a club they've had a lot to deal with, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of knocked on a bit into the women's as well. So I think it's going to be a tough day for them, Spartans, and I think that I think Derby can come away with the win. The public believe in Spartans, however, 71 votes to 49, so that's 59% in favour of Spartans.
I think the other thing subconsciously impacting this for me is obviously Spartans played against Bees last meet, and they did beat us. It was a 15-5 scoreline. But if you talk to the Spartans players coming off from the second half, even though they thoroughly, beat us, they didn't feel happy with their performance. And if you watch that footage back, they shouldn't be. Neither team should be that happy with how they performed. We both got absolutely knackered. But Spartans have kind of built a lot of their style and a lot of their kind of club ethos and playing mentality off of this concept of being high athletic players. They were not high athletic players in that second half of the match. That was the time when they really should have been shining. These are like international players that need to be shining in a situation which it's really tiring. The hall is really warm. It's it's a really exhausting point to be playing in. They should be the ones who are coming out easily on top in that kind of condition because they should be the fittest squad. They didn't feel like they were easily the fittest squad. It felt like both sides were incredibly sluggish. And I don't know how it would have been if we played Phantoms in that exact same scenario, but when I've watched Phantoms, they haven't looked sluggish this season. So, with a warm hall, could go to Phantoms.
Watch it absolutely piss it down on Sunday.
Spartans cheering for the rain on the drive down.
So, oh, thank God. Anyway, Women's League One. Interesting developments. So, I mean, what we've known for this league for a while now is the top two have been safe in who's getting promoted. What is unsure on is two things. One is who is going to get demoted and how many teams would get demoted, because we have no idea what the leagues are going to look like next year. At the moment, it's two leagues of 6 split. But whether that exists next year or not, we do not know. And whether or not it will be 2 up, 2 down, it's hard to say. I haven't seen any commitment from BD on what will happen. So, in terms of fixtures that made it interesting, it's the only ones we really care about are the ones at the bottom of the table. The bottom 4 teams are Leeds, Hartlepool, Norwich Nighthawks, and Sheriffs 2, with Sheriffs 2 currently occupying the 3rd place spot and Leeds at the bottom. Leeds got a winning over Hartlepool, getting the 2nd win of the season. Absolutely fantastic match. It was really great to see the women play so well. Much deserved after such a tough season for them. So super happy for them. Really hope Lucinda recovers. I know she had a non-contact injury. We literally, I was ball retrieving during that match and saw the balls get thrown and it wasn't targeted at her. And the next thing I saw, she was on the ground, injured. So really hoping for a speedy recovery for her and hope that she's okay. But the team rallied and got a win against Sheriffs 2, which was amazing for Hartlepool. Really fantastic. It was interesting speaking to some of the Sheriffs 2 lot afterwards. They were not happy with how they played, and it was a very frustrating match by the sounds of it. But Hartlepool doing the job and getting a win, which feels like a bit of a... I'm not sure, at the time we were like, oh, maybe that's not so good because it felt like, Leeds were leapfrogging Hartlepool because they got the win, and then Hartlepool got the win, so Hartlepool went straight back above us. But might actually have worked out in our favour in the end, and I'll explain why later. But Sheriffs losing both matches might have been a really good thing. But yeah, tough day for Leeds the rest of the time against the 2 league leaders with heavy losses. I think the other matches kind of went as expected. It was only the Sheriffs 2 Hartlepool game that was, I guess, predicted to be kind of close, with Nighthawks playing the leaguers as well, and Sheriffs also playing Spartans 2. So not much else to say on that one, I don't think. It was just the two matches that meant anything really were the Leeds Hartlepool game and the Hartlepool Sheriffs 2 game.
Yeah.
Which were
good summary.
Good results either way, I think, is what I think from a Leeds and Hartlepool perspective, I think they both would be happy with how they came out of that.
That keeps things interesting at the bottom. It sort of means that we're not in a situation where the bottom 2 are predetermined going into the final meet, everything's very nice and close at the bottom, which is good. That's what we like to see.
Yeah, so the league table for our listeners, Derby Phantoms 2 and Spartans 2 clear at the top with 24 points and 21 points respectively. Derby still undefeated with 11 wins and 2 draws. Then the absolute mess for the last medal position, the 2 positions to not get demoted if it's standard league rules, and then the 2 demotion positions where Sheriff's 2s are currently in 3rd on 10 points. Norwich Nighthawks are in 4th on 8 points. Hartlepool Mavericks are in 5th on 7 points, and Leeds Owls are in 6th on 6 points. I believe, if I remember correctly, Leeds and Hartlepool only have 2 fixtures this league meet coming up, and then Nighthawks and Sheriffs 2 have 3 league fixtures coming up. But for Leeds, we play Sheriffs 2 and Nighthawks. So the 2 teams that are in that non-relegation zone, we play to try and get out of the relegation zone, and we could get out of it because we're one win behind. A win over Nighthawks would really help that. But yeah, I'll just go straight onto the fixtures because that'll explain.
Yeah,
more
that'll
as
make things a
well.
lot easier.
I guess the one thing is to say with that is that because of how weird the league is, we are 2 wins behind 3rd place, which is just wild considering the absolute season we've had with changes of players and people going out injured and whatnot. It's been really tough for the team, but somehow mathematically it is technically possible for them to get a medal, which I just think is incredible going into this last league meet, knowing how the season's gone. 2 wins and 2 draws, and they're in with a shout. So to break it down, starting in 3rd place, Sheriffs 2s play Derby Phantoms 2. They play Leeds and they play Nighthawks. To try and keep their hopes of 3rd place medals alive. Then Nighthawks play Leeds, Hartlepool, and Sheriffs 2, all potentially winnable matches for them. And then Leeds play Nighthawks and Sheriffs 2, and Hartlepool play Spartans 2 and Nighthawks. So all teams have winnable matches. And yeah, it could be a very, very interesting day. If Leeds beat Nighthawks, Hartlepool beat Nighthawks, and Nighthawks beat Sheriffs, it is possible that Leeds end up in 3rd, which would be amazing.
You'd end up with a lot of people drawn up on 10 points at that.
Yep. Yeah. Just like men's League One, to be fair.
Yeah.
A lot of drawing potential.
And then at the top of the table, then it's very, very unlikely that Spartans will jump over Phantoms for the top of the table because it would rely on Phantoms losing to Sheriffs and then Spartans winning against Phantoms, which the first of those is not very likely to happen. The second could be a really interesting match, but it won't matter at that point, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I guess it is. But definitely some interesting matches. I don't know what the availability of players and teams are going to be like for Nighthawks and the Sheriffs 2 going into it, because we might have some Sheriffs 2 being brought up.
I was going to say Sheriffs have been struggling in their 1s recently, so that can have a knock-on effect onto the 2s, is what we've said before.
Exactly, and then Nighthawks might have a few players missing for various reasons, but we're not sure. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what sort of turns up. So it could be a very, very interesting last league meet.
Yeah. So match to catch.
Match to catch and predictions. Our match to catch is Leeds v Nighthawks. Could have been any one of the matches between the bottom 4, to be fair.
Yeah, but you were always going to pick a Leeds game.
Of course it was. I mean, hey, look, you say it's my choice. We have a vote, and we all vote. You guys were just like, yeah, that looks right. That looks fine. Like, can't blame me.
What do you mean? We were very enthusiastic with picking the games.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Stop bullshitting me.
Is Meg playing for Leeds this week?
I am not the person to ask. I actually don't know.
I thought you were the fucking president. You're meant to know everything. God,
wow, I'm not a head coach though.
This impacts my prediction.
President is high higher up than head coach.
So-
What am I hearing?
I believe she might be playing. It depends on how her knee is. I know she's been trying out her training this week, but we'll see. I don't actually know. But I know Erin's not playing, so yeah, we'll have to see. But I think they can do it. Definitely think they can do it.
I'm gonna go for Nighthawks, I think.
I like going against
Right.
Nick, so I'm also going to go for Nighthawks.
It's tricky.
What do you think the public are going to go for, Zoe?
Nighthawks.
You think? Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
How much buy?
Nighthawks won last time. I'm looking at it right now. Nighthawks won by 2 sets. Which
How
is
much-
close.
How much?
It
How
is
much
closer than
buy?
I thought it would be.
How much buy? How much do you reckon voted for Nighthawks over Leeds in terms of percentages? Not how many votes, percentages. What do you reckon? It was?
65?
No, it was closer than that.
Oh,
59 to
50.
41.
wow.
Yeah.
It's
So-
nothing. Anyway.
Anywho.
No, that's interesting. I think it's a close matchup, right? I think
Yes.
I think Leeds have struggled so much this season, and I do
Really?
want to
I didn't
go out-
notice.
Let me finish my
you've not-
thought, Nicholas. No, I think they've struggled a lot this season, and that means on paper, I would say if you put your best Leeds team out against your best Nighthawks team, then I would say Leeds wins. But I don't know if you guys will have your best Leeds team, and I would be reasonably confident that Nighthawks are fielding a good Nighthawks team. So that's why I'm kind of giving it to Nighthawks. Is just I don't know. You guys have been fucked over by selections too many times now that feels mathematically. We'll see. I would love to be proven wrong. I do love Leeds very much.
Liar.
We're gonna
right.
open up that can of worms today. Beef, 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 beef.
I'm vegan, no. I mean, you should have seen that one coming. Women's League 2. A match that only had half of it, just over half of its fixtures fulfilled. Sad
What
to
does
see.
the F stand for?
Forfeit.
Ah, and the WW is
Walkover win.
we win. Nice. Okay, cool.
We win.
What?
Yeah,
Won,
that's
won
what I was
well?
like, we win and fucking failures. Like I don't know.
Oh, I like that one. Let's go with that one.
Definitely go with that in the future. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Awesome.
the only one to notice for me really is, well, I mean, okay, there's two big games, I guess. Is the Silverbacks 2 beating Honeybees 2, which was a bit of a surprise considering Honeybees have definitely had the edge on them the last times they've met. And then Saints having a big win over White Tigers too. Big win. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of the matches, so...
Nice. I think we do kind of need to actually talk a little bit about the MK situation because that's quite bad that we've seen a team pull out of a league at this point. I don't think we can just brush over it and be like, well, there's half the matches are gone. Like, it's not just. I understand that like the whole point of well, not the whole point, but the sort of incentive not to pull out of these things is somewhat financial. That there's the financial burden if you've paid to enter the league, and so it impacts you if you withdraw. But that kind of ignores the fact that this has a massive impact on everybody else in the league. This is taken a whole bunch of fixtures from these other teams, and they're the ones who are still like they still financially pay the same amount. So that means that financially, every single club has been punished for one club's inability to field a team. Even though
it is
realistically,
also just. Sorry, go ahead.
no, just realistically, like the financial burden as a punishment should really. I know it's more complicated than this because it's not as if that's how things are structured, but the whole argument it's meant to be to disincentivize certain teams. You know, there's that financial problem. It doesn't really work as an argument when you consider that everybody's impacted by it. So it just kind of sucks.
it's also just really unfortunate that it's happened in such a small league that,
Yeah.
as you can see, it literally wiped away half the day of fixtures for the league. It left how many teams just had one game that day in the end?
Honeybees and Silverbacks too.
Honeybees and Silverbacks too. Yeah, like stuff like that is very unfortunate. And MK, bless them, clearly tried to put some stuff together whenever they could. I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I can't really, comment on their situation. So I don't want to say too much. It's just I feel more bad for all the teams in the league that, like you said, they all travel from parts of the country to turn up and play dodgeball, and it's unfortunate that a lot of the games have ended up having to be forfeited. I'm almost kind of glad though that they've getting pulled out of the league entirely rather than just having sporadic league meets being forfeited to impact the table. So in some ways, I'm kind of happy it's panned out the way it did.
From a B's standpoint, this is definitely the better outcome.
It's more just I'm just glad that the integrity of the table wasn't ruined because of forfeits. It's not even a B's biased view on it. It's just you hate to have seen forfeits be the reason why somebody is top of the table. It wouldn't have sat right with anybody realistically, no matter who it benefited.
Yeah.
Even you speak to anybody that's in this league, and all the teams would have said the same thing. Where if they won through set difference because of MK forfeiting one meet, it would have sucked. It takes away from the victory a bit. So there slight positive to take away is that it's just a full on forfeit from the league. I just feel bad for the players that turn up to St. George's Park and travel all that way for an already small league where you're already playing the same teams on repeat to play one match.
Yeah, I think it's there's quite I have a fair few opinions on this. There's quite it's quite an interesting topic of discussion because whilst I agree having the disincentive to make sure you don't withdraw, it's actually we want to grow and we want to bring women into the league. We want to make sure that the women's league keep growing. How do we incentivize it? And having spoken to a few of the MK players, from my understanding of what they've said, is that it's not that they're short of women's players. They're short of women's players willing to commit to league fixtures regularly. So they might have they might have the players, but they've had quite a few turnovers in terms of who's actually played for them, and of those players that have actually played for them, never enough regularly to then field a team. And if they're turning up and they're getting whitewashed anyway because they are not playing as a team regularly in competitive format, then why would they be incentivized to play more matches? And I think in a year where we've seen a real difficulty in women's participation in teams in general, with I think a lot of us know a lot of teams have struggled in terms of making sure that they've got numbers regularly turning up. I know there was definitely a few requests that came out last league meet to make sure certain teams had enough numbers. It's worth noting that when we look into next year, that we might not have 3 leagues next year because of the difficulty as it has been for women's players to be turning up and women's teams to exist. There's a possibility that there's a couple of teams that might bring in, from what we've heard, maybe PB. Maybe some of the London teams have an excess of women's players from what we've heard, but whether they do or not, or they commit because of what they've seen to MK, we don't know. How we grow women's participation significantly more, I think we've seen an influx post-COVID because there might have been quite a few people that are actually I want to get up and get out after COVID, and we've seen that growth, but growth's just slowed down since then. And I think it's going to be really difficult to see where women's dodgeball goes in the next few years, because I think there's going to be more people retiring at a quicker rate than more people are coming in.
I think my point is basically that there's 2 different areas that need to be considered when dealing with this in future. One has to come from the clubs and one has to come from BD, in my opinion. The club side of things is if you're a new club that's looking to join Women's League, you need to have a really robust recruitment plan. It can't just rely on your current players existing throughout the season, because that's just not how dodgeball works. People, like, life reasons happen. Sometimes someone will get injured, sometimes someone will move away, sometimes you just get bored of it, sometimes you get pregnant. There's a million reasons why someone would stop playing dodgeball. So you can't rely on, yeah, great, we've got 7 or 8 women, so we can send in a women's team. That's great now, but you're still recruiting people. Do you still have players coming in? Which is why a team like PB to me makes a lot more sense coming in, because they have a university connection kind of that goes in, and because London is huge and there's players in that kind of area. Milton Keynes, do they have a university connection really? I don't really view them as having a strong university connection. They've got teams nearby, like teams that are sort of further north of Coventry. So people who are better, that are slightly out of Milton Keynes, will just go to Coventry because they're a better team. People that are better, that live slightly further south, will go to Bedford, either one of the Bedfords. So there's really well established teams in the surrounding area, and not that many players that want to leave those teams, as far as I can tell, which isn't really the same case with London. So they don't really have any in ways, and they've got this chance of what
they,
happened is players leaving.
they do have a very good junior setup, but that will take years to unfold.
Yeah, not fast enough. You need to have things coming in. You need to basically be able to do what, like, most of the big teams have done in the past, which is when you inevitably find yourself at a meet where, oh shit, we're missing 3 players, you go over to the local university team and you say, please, dear God, can any of you play for us? And that's how, like, bees end up feeling a
minor bees.
Exactly. There's always at least one meet where one of the bees teams is basically just muds, and that's because some shit happens every single year. Something weird will happen, and even to a club that's as big as bees, where there's that many players, you end up just having to drag in the universities. And we've got muds, we've got banger. Like, there's multiple universities that feed in to bees, which allows us to do that. Does Milton Keynes have that connection? I don't really view them as having that. So that's one thing, for clubs coming in, is that they need to make sure before they commit to joining the league that they do actually think that they've got kind of those emergency pockets of players that they can bring in, but also a potential place where players will naturally grow into the team. And then from the BD side of things, the idea of doing 2 6-team leagues is fine if you know that those are 6 robust teams that aren't going to fold. And we've seen this happen with MK. It's not the first time that a club has folded in a British Dodgeball League. And I think you kind of have to do a risk assessment. Like, it sounds really boring. People hate all this corporate stuff, but they kind of do have to do a risk assessment when they're looking at this, of going, okay, how likely are some of these new teams to fold? And based on that, do we maybe make one of the leagues slightly bigger than, if you really want to have 3 leagues, say we've got 12 teams that sign down next time, do you load it differently, or do you do just one mega league? Like, how do you separate things to make it so that it doesn't just compromise the league completely when one inevitably doesn't come to every meet? I would say that even within the number of new teams, if all the clubs that say they're going to enter women's teams enter teams next year, I would bet real money now that at least one meet, one of those teams will not show up.
Yeah, yeah, like, point very well made. It's interesting that with the risk assessment stuff, BD did do that this year. They just did it at a club level. They assessed every team and reported on whether or not every club was sustainable or not. The interesting thing is that they are a sustainable club. Teams, no. And I think there's a difference, and this is one of my frustrations with BD, is where I feel like they missed the mark, is measuring something as a sustainable club. The clubs that you should be measuring whether or not they're sustainable or not are university, because that's where we care about, where do you get the players coming in from. We don't care whether or not they're competitive at university realistically, because if you have good connections with your community club anyway, you'll have sessions where you bring in university players, you show them what community club version of the sport looks like outside of the university scene, and that might get them interested and get the conversion in. But realistically, if you don't have a university that's sustainable, you don't have a committee coming in next year, you're not going to get that new recruitment of players, and you're not going to get that birth of players to be able to support your community clubs. That's the club side of things that needs to be sustainable, and the other side of it is how many teams actually have enough of a player. Like, when you sign up with a team, you should be saying, what's your berth of player pool that you're able to pull from? Like, how many people have said they're available for 70-80% of the meets? And you should be looking at 9+. You know, if you're doing 3 league meets, 3 matches a meet, potentially that's what you should be looking at. And the other point I was going to make is, in terms of these players moving around, the biggest point that shows this is when Women's Super League and you know, big teams bringing in the better players, is when you look at Women's Super League and that the top 4 teams are the only teams that have positive set difference. Because that's where the talent's going. That's where it's being cultivated. The other clubs aren't able to bring enough talent in and cultivate it to be properly competitive, because enough players are coming from university and going, I'm going to go to the best team because I want to play for the best community club. And they're just going there. Especially in the Midlands. Like, it's what's happening.
Yeah. Also, I just want to very quickly correct, because I know that someone's going to say it otherwise. I did make a geographical error about 5 minutes ago. Bedford is not south of Milton Keynes. I meant London is south of Milton Keynes and Bedford is east. But either way, point being that Milton Keynes is kind of stuck between a lot of other places that I would say are much more interesting clubs to. If you're a free agent player and you live in that kind of, say you live in, I don't know, Luton or Letchworth, are you realistically going to join Milton Keynes women, or are you going to join Bedford Rangers?
Yeah. No. And the other feedback I've heard is just how poor and not entertaining it's been playing in a 16 league. Like, playing the same teams 3 times has just not been entertaining. I know, like, off air, like, I've definitely voiced the idea of, I think we should be doing potentially 12-team leagues
I agree.
as standard, because I think it'll just be so much more interesting, and you'll see so much more fighting between larger numbers of teams with more opportunities for things to happen, especially when it's only 2 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. But anyway,
Do you mean all leagues or just the women's one?
the ones that can sustain it, like, I mean, Men's Super League, Men's League One, Women's Super League, Women's League One. Why not have them all 12-team leagues? I mean, only if we can support it at the venue that it's chosen at. Again, rumours whether or not we're at St George's Park next year, but if we can have enough fixtures, and I'm totally down for having, starting in October, ending in May, more fixtures spread throughout, where we can just, you know, have like two or 3 matches, 12-team leagues, 20.
Yeah, you would have to increase the number of mates, and you would have to, like, the more you add teams into the leagues, right, the more you're going to have to start separating out the leagues. And I think that makes it a much tougher.
As in what?
Like,
What do you mean separate
to
the
manage?
leagues?
So right now we've got 4 leagues playing on the same day in the same venue.
Yes.
If you start increasing the number of teams in each league, you're going to have to either reduce the amount of matches played, which is something people have actually seem to be enjoying so far, playing 3 matches on a day.
Yeah.
More than playing 2. If you add more teams and you want to keep people happy playing 3,
You need more league meets.
Yeah. Well, it's either more league meets, or you separate out the leagues so that you don't have to fit like an extra 4 or 5 matches into a single day, because you're already at the limited number of matches you can play it.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. But like, I mean, I haven't done the
But
maths
like
on it, but
then you've got the issue of, like, are you going to have like people willing to referee it? Are you going to have people willing to do the traveling for it, depending on where the venue is? Because, like, they're not going to keep SGP for, you know, just Super Leagues playing it in one day. Like, that'd be bonkers.
No, I totally agree.
Like, it starts to become a logistical nightmare for BD. It's not as simple. Basically, my point is that it's not as simple as just going and increase the number of teams to make it a better league. Like, there is a much bigger picture to be thought about.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is a simple solution. I'm saying, like, if we could, and if it was possible, that would be what I'd like to see personally. I'm not saying it's possible. I'm not saying it, you know, it definitely can happen, or it's best for all teams even. But I think it would be cool to see. But also the other thing is, like, you know, we used to have a nine league meet season with only 2 matches a league meet. If we had 9 league meets with 3 matches, could we fulfill it? And also, would more teams and more players be willing to turn up if they were more evenly spread between October and May, rather than having 2 league meets?
Yeah,
a week after each other, and then having
that I
like a
agree
month or
with
so off.
as a something that needs to be sorted. Is I love the 6 meet a season with a few opens beforehand as a preseason, and then you have like British Open, and I don't like the end of season open format, but I like the fact that there is like an end of season tournament that kind of happens before British champs kind of thing. But I kind of view it as a bit of a step backwards if they start making it a like 9 meet again. Like I think the 3 matches in a day is definitely the way to go, and I think everybody seems to be enjoying it a lot more. Not whenever you're struggling for for players outside of your core six. But on the whole, it seems to be a better step in the direction, and I don't know whether you agree with that, but
Wait,
it's
so you
definitely
saying keep it as 6 league meets and 3 matches, or are you saying keep it as 3 matches,
yeah.
or both?
Keep it as 3 matches, six league meets, but it needs to be spread across.
Yeah.
The big issue I've had this year is the congestion of league meet fixtures that have been bombarded. Like it, I could have been injured. People have been injured for 4 weeks and missed 3 meets basically. Like that shouldn't really be a thing.
Which is half the season.
Yeah, like literally, like that's my biggest issue with this season so far. It's just how spread out it's been, and it's always been an issue. Like previously, whenever we were playing 9 meets, we used to play like what 3 in January,
Yeah.
something like that. Like, and then like 2 in February. Like, there was always a big fixture congestion, and that is the biggest thing that they need to sort. I don't. As much as I'd be gutted if it like leaves St George's Park, as it has become a bit of a staple for the top end of British dodgeball, I'd much rather see it go to like maybe a smaller venue if it means that we get a lot more control over when the fixtures would be. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think the only other thing I want to add, just bring it back to women's league specifically, is that I just think that there needs to be more push to get women's teams into these leagues, and to start developing women's teams within clubs that have men's sides. It sort of, I think the thing that really bothered me earlier this year was I think we all remember the mess with the attempted announcement of the junior system requirements, I guess would be the best way of putting it. The whole system that BD was trying to announce around that. And there were a lot of reasons why I was personally opposed to that. A lot of them came down to just the complexities specifically to do with junior. But it really highlighted to me that would be a structure that I'd actually really welcome for the women's side, because a lot of the problems that I have with that as a policy to do with junior were related to, you have to buy new equipment for junior that you don't use at adult level. You have to pay for DBS checks, which is something you don't need for adult level. You need to have coaches that understand how to coach junior players, which you don't need at adult level. Pretty much everything that you have, if you can run a men's club, you can run a women's club. There's no unique differences. There's no changes. Now that we've got standardized rules and have had them for absolutely fucking ages, then there's actually no difference financially between setting up a women's team within the club, or not massive difference compared to a junior side. So I would have absolutely welcomed that same kind of set of regulations, but just targeting women's development. And it was something that I heard echoed by, like other sort of demographics that kind of have been asking for development. There's sort of, it's not this that we've got a problem inherently with junior development. It's that there's so many other areas of development that we've been asking for ages. And it would be really nice to have a little incentive to push teams to really work on developing that, because there aren't currently really any incentives to develop women's teams. There's no girls dodge 2 anymore. There's nothing like that. It's just, ooh, please, it's not.
Yeah, it's the same.
Just have a bit of a push.
It's the same thing, like or a similar thing anyway, in terms of, I feel like a lot of the incentive has been on club sustainability, not about team involvement or creating team environments. And that's really, like, it's really difficult, because like for me, the big things to grow the sport is being able to create a club needs to be easier. And that's not something BD can solve alone. I know how difficult it is. I know how much the costs are. You need crazy people who are addicted to the sport that are willing to throw loads of money at it. That's just how it's going to be, and it's going to be for a while. Welcome to economics. But also, like, if we don't have more incentive to do that, then when you're looking at all the graduates, the situation we're seeing in Women's League where people just graduate and go, where's the nearest good club? Oh, wait, it's these 5 clubs. And they just go to them. Shock horror, everyone else suffers. But, like, do not blame the players from university for doing that. Because if you want to be good at dodgeball and you've been playing good at university, you totally should be doing that kind of thing. And why should you be expected to set up your own club? It's not like the previous generations before us that have like come out of university and gone, well, what the hell do I do with my spare time now? I'll start my own dodgeball club. Like, it's a very different scene. But if we want to keep growing, we need to have more of people with that attitude and ability to do that. And there is no incentive to do it full stop, let alone for women's clubs and women's teams. Like, there isn't any, like, when was, I think PB after COVID is like the only other club that's really like popped up out of anywhere. Saints as well, I guess. But like in terms of like sustainable clubs that, sorry, what was that?
Canterbury?
Yeah,
Mainly?
yeah, Canterbury, yeah.
But their women's team exists right now.
Yeah, they don't have a women's team anymore. So, like it's not great. And in terms of looking at the sustainability and growth of the sport, I don't think we're necessarily looking in the right areas to grow it. But that's like a massive tangent to the point of what's looking at Women's League 2 and the table. Back on topic. But we did have, I think we had time to go off on a bit of a tangent there. We were only at like 50 minutes, so we only had a 20-minute tangent.
Table off, so we're good.
So for our audio listeners, we're talking about Women's League 2, which is now a 5-team league with Coventry Silverbacks at the top with 18 points, undefeated. Walking the group, to be honest, as the only team with positive set difference. Then second place through 5th, you have London Saints on 10 points with minus 14 set difference, with 5 wins. Honeybees or Manchester Bees' second team on 8 points with minus 2 set difference. Leicester White Tigers on 6 points with minus 28, and Coventry Silverbacks 2 also on 6 points on minus 38. So all still to play for in the final league meet, now that MK have been chalked off, and leads to kind of a condensed fixture list for them. So we will be finishing before 8:45, I believe.
Which is nice. Everyone can then go and watch the Spartans Meteors match.
Or go get very drunk.
Why not both?
That is true.
Correct.
It's the last day of dodgeball. Of course, everyone will be consuming beverages.
Free drinks before the night out.
Yep, get yourself warmed up. Bees will be playing 3 straight matches. Obviously, this is intermingled with the Women's League 1, so there will be a gap between each match, which is why you see Women's League 1's team refereeing Women's League 2 matches. So for the table and understand what this means, if we're assuming that 2 teams will go up still, then there is something to play for in terms of getting second place. There's still very much wooden shinies available for all teams. So I mean, Leicester White Tigers 2 and Silverbacks 2 are 2 points off of third place at the moment. So everything to play for. All matches count. Saints have been playing really well. It's going to be a really difficult game for them against Silverbacks 2, and also that Honeybees game is going to be really interesting. Honeybees versus White Tigers 2. If they found it really difficult against Silverbacks 2 last time, it'll be interesting to see how they do against White Tigers 2 this time. Yeah.
What's interesting is there's definitely a way that this could come down to set difference in the end for that second place position, which we've kind of known for quite a while now, actually. Like it's sort of, there's been a vague eye from the Honeys side on Saints for absolutely ages now, and MK
Saints have
dropping
been
out.
the same very much.
Yeah, and MK dropping out has completely sort of dragged the table back into something that makes sense again. Right up until MK dropping out, then Saints had benefited from MK not showing up to meets, so they got those 40-0 scorelines. Whereas MK had amazingly turned up every time to play against Honeys, which was really upsetting to Honeys. So they were, you know, understandably not nearly getting 40-0 scorelines because that would be absurd. So the set difference right up until this week was pretty hefty between the two, but now it isn't, which means that we could have actually a really interesting battle ahead of that match happening. Because it could very easily be if Bees win both their matches and Saints win theirs, or you know, if Bees win one match and Saints lose theirs, whatever. Basically, if something happens to get them drawn up on points difference, actually, sorry, no, it's not even if they get drawn up on points difference. If Bees are ahead by 2 points going into that last match and they lose it, then that could be really interesting from a, like, you could very easily have a situation in which the coaches are shouting at Saints to get a certain number of sets against Bees and vice versa, which is fun. We love maths.
We do, especially at last league meets.
So there's going to be a lot of frantic scribbling, a lot of people shouting to ask each other for results from previous matches and stuff like that. I'm sure I'll have my notepad on hand, so I'll be working things out as the day goes on, which will be really fun because I'll be getting drunk while doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my girl.
I guess the only thought that came to mind was, now MK are not in the league, what's the rules on MK players wanting to play for other teams if they wanted to? Like,
No,
assume
they're
they
still
could.
registered. No,
yeah, but
I
there's no
reckon they're still
team, so
registered
can
with
they
MK
transfer?
Cyclones.
But can they transfer?
Yes, because they were. Yeah, they're registered with BD under MK.
Yeah.
So they still have to transfer from MK. Like, MK as a club still exists.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they
yeah.
are still
Yeah, they're still registered.
registered under MK, so they still have to get a transfer.
But yeah,
And there's no way a transfer is getting accepted at this late point of the season.
Yeah, maybe not.
No chance.
Also, who would be requesting and who would be taking those players? Any of those teams really
Next to a hypothetical thing, Zoe, that he usually does, where he's made up a scenario in his head.
We literally just had a conversation about women's availability in the leagues. Maybe some people have been calling around. That's all I'm saying.
Hypothetically, if Silverbacks 2 managed to beat their ones, they could still come second in the league.
Yeah.
God.
They wouldn't just have to beat their first team.
Yeah, they have to beat the Saints and then beat their first team. Easy.
Easy.
Simple.
Easy peasy. Simples.
White Tigers also would just have to beat Cov to get up there into the second spot. So, easy peasy.
Cool. Fantastic. On to our match to catch then. Which will be...
Oh my god, not again.
again.
God, get some new jokes, people.
You make it so easy.
I literally have a...
Like you and a night out, for fuck's sake. You asked for new jokes.
I really like the full-blown finger guns.
Go on. I predict Saints to win against Honeybees too.
Who do you think we're going to say, Nick?
Yeah, you could have at least kept you as the tension, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I thought maybe you were going to be interesting people, but apparently not.
I actually genuinely
Do you
believe...
want to go back to the Leeds game?
I thought you were gonna be interesting people.
These Honeys have a good squad for this meet. I think that they can pull it. I think they can get it. I think Saints will give them a really good run for their money. But it does also depend on certain players having moments of brilliance, I think, from the Saints side. Whereas I guess that always comes down to it, but I'd say Bees is less reliant on that to the same degree. Saints, it does feel as if one or two of their players aren't switched on, then they just fumble the bag.
Who do you think will end up in the promotion spot then? Do you think Bees will or Saints?
Well, at that, Bees.
I mean, Bees have got 3 matches and Saints only have 2, I think, right? So...
yeah.
And if
what
Bees
is it?
beat
They've
Saints,
got to...
it then drastically reduces Saints' chances, right?
Bees have a unwinnable quote unquote unwinnable match against Coventry.
Silverbacks. Whereas I think Saints already
true.
had that.
But then that's still just I still think it's going to be
Honeys have the better. Well, I guess it's just going to be about them grinding out as few sets as possible against Coventry, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
In our eyes, like, so we're assuming Honeys beat Coventry, or no, sorry, Saints. You're hoping that they don't lose by too much to Silverbacks, that they've been a fucking force to reckon with this season. Who's their third game? Sorry, I forgot.
White Tigers.
White Tigers too.
White Tigers. Yeah, they could be White Tigers and not even come down to set difference.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? So yeah, I was saying this in coaching chats that basically, like, if it comes down to set difference, a really important thing to remember is very, like, in a weird maths way, a set is worth 4 points in set difference for that final match, because it's a -2 and a +2. So every single set for the Saints versus Honeybees match is technically a 4-point set difference within the table, which means that you can, like, you can rack up a bit of a difference in set difference ahead of that, and you can pull it back pretty damn quick. That means 3 sets difference between the two teams is 12 whole points, and you immediately make up the difference. So it's tricky. I do think it just comes down to who wins that match. At the end of the day, it could definitely be that one of them wins it and needed just one more set to come second. But so much of it relies on that. I think that +4 thing really does a lot of damage. If the last match that you've got is the one that you get the +4 on, it makes a huge difference, because by then you know exactly how much you need. If that match happened earlier in the day, then you wouldn't know exactly, and so it's a very different mental battle. But you'll know exactly, and you'll have the coaches in the box telling you exactly how much you need. So it'll be interesting.
It was a 75-25 split in favour of London Saints from the public vote.
Surprised. Yeah.
Why does everybody hate me?
What I want to know, right, is when I see university clubs vote one way or the other, I want to know who the admins are who votes, because I am so curious. Like, someone somewhere is like, you know what, CBA to log in on my own account and vote, or I really want to vote twice for this one team. Either way, it's fantastic.
To be fair, the amount of times I forget that I'm on the Catching Out Instagram.
So
is
incredible. Massive shout out to University of Birmingham for voting for bees.
Why?
Yes.
Recruitment drive.
That's the weirdest recruitment.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to mention it, because I was like, Birmingham, what the hell? Like,
Birmingham.
That's
them voting for Saints next time.
Yeah.
Well, good news. There won't be a next time, because this is the last one of the season. So that's all our match to catch is. We will do a
recap. Surely.
I think it
yeah,
means
but we're not going to do a
match
prediction,
to, like,
though, are we?
The preview episode.
Yeah, but
I'm just
I'm clarifying because it wasn't clear, Nick, based on what you just said.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
That's us logging off for the season.
Nick
big
doing
rip.
Nickism.
Oh, the biggest truth ever said. Anyway, yeah, so that's Women's League, and a whole lot of discussion on recruitment into Britain dodgeball in general.
We've solved dodgeball.
Yes. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Really helps with the podcast and reach of it. Give us a review on wherever you listen to our podcasts. Hopefully this will be out the day before League, so you'll have plenty of time to listen.
And if Nick gets any of his match to catches wrong, please run up to him and tell him and remind him that he sucks.
Actually, if anything he's said in this entire podcast is wrong, please go up to him, ideally during a match when he's coaching, and tell him. I think that's what we all want.
Massive shout out to Brennan for ball retrieving for us last weekend. Just wanted, while that was in my mind, just wanted to say that. Absolutely love that. Class. Absolutely class. Anyway,
do you want to give anybody context around that?
No. Brennan knows how much I personally appreciated all the effort that he put in
You know he's
I
not
think
going to
you
watch
need to
this, right?
find-
I know,
You
but
need-
whatever.
You need to find that clip and post it as a reel on the Instagram because otherwise no one's
What is
gonna
going
understand
on?
what he's talking about.
Can somebody
Yeah.
just tell me like what game it was that he interrupted so
I
I
was
can
a-
I can like search down the footage?
It'll be Derby Threes versus Mustangs, I think.
Yeah.
Right,
it's not-
I'll ask Ross to find me the clip then.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Thanks for listening, and see you at St George's Park.